we were able as a government to stabilize the economy. And I know you're going to say you hear this already, but for the record, give critical support to the poor, improve tourism, health, education, agriculture, and reduce crime. All of that in 4 years. There is no doubt that we had good policies. There is no doubt that we led effectively on critical issues. There is no doubt that overall we were a good government and that by and large Jamaica had advanced further under the 4 years of our administration than under the previous 18 years of the PNP government. You want me to repeat it? Jamaica has advanced further under the 4 years of the Jamaica Labour Party government than under the previous 18 years of the People's National Party.
Hold on, we're getting ragged.
Mr. Speaker, I first turn to that area of our economy that affects all of us and where there is need for great urgency if Jamaica is to realize our true potential. Mr. Speaker, I speak of energy. Energy prices are too high, and I believe that across the aisle there is solid agreement on that. Prices of energy vary all over the world and depends on many variables. Typically, they vary for residential, business, and industrial customers, and charges will reflect the amount of usage, time of usage, among other factors. Energy is no doubt a complex subject, but there is one simple fact. For far too long, energy prices to the Jamaican consumer has been far too high. This cannot continue. There is no greater need for competitiveness in our economy than in the area of energy. Mr. Speaker, Madam Prime Minister, I know that for many Jamaicans, the price of energy will be higher. Based on the plan presented by the Minister of Finance to increase electricity on consumption by up to 60% in one step. Mr. Speaker, this move by the government, and I'm going to use the term hypocritical, this move by the government is hypocritical in the extreme and will be remembered by the Jamaican people. I just thought I would make a note of that. Mr. Speaker, our country must diversify our fuel mix. The policy of the Jamaica Labour Party is diversification. We made significant progress, as the Minister would know, in modernizing Jamaica's electricity generation infrastructure and diversifying the energy mix based on cheaper fuels such as liquid natural gas and renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power. We expect and we encourage the current government to continue on that path, to reduce our dependency on oil as a source of energy by establishing a viable LNG import facility and securing long-term LNG supplies for Jamaica. This is an important project, Mr. Speaker. The Jamaican people expect no less than for it to be implemented in a fully transparent way, in an efficient manner, according to the capabilities of those who seek to provide the service here and in keeping with the laws of Jamaica. The Minister will understand the codes in that statement. Mr. Speaker, the government should move to amend the avoided cost to encourage renewable energy. Let's look at this a little deeper, Mr. Speaker. You sign off on the amendment of it. What's the all right, so very good. Very good. But the avoided cost creates a distortion, and it prevents investment in the Mr. Speaker, in the energy sector. So I'm very happy to hear that the Minister is on the ball with that one. You may want to tell me then, Minister, how far are you with the deregulation of transmission and distribution? Mr. Speaker, there is a further impediment that needs to be addressed. Under existing legislation, producers of energy in commercial quantities must sell to the Jamaica Public Service, the monopoly provider, who unsells to the customer through JPS's own transmission and distribution network. The terms of such sales, including the price and other conditions set out in a contract between the producer of energy and the distributor, being JPS, that must be regulated. There is therefore an inherent conflict, Mr. Speaker, as JPS is also building its own new generation capacity that it then transports over the same transmission and distribution network to the customer. The inherent conflict, Mr. Speaker, provides an opportunity for adverse transfer pricing, which works against the interest of the consumer in receiving competitive prices for energy. The conflict is that new producers of energy have to essentially negotiate with their competitor, JPS, for energy that they produce to reach the customer. That is not a competitive market, and the consumers cannot benefit. This conflict acts as a deterrent to investment in generating capacity and results in little competition that contributes to high prices to the Jamaicans' homes and offices. We call on the government to dismantle this conflict of interest through dialogue and negotiation. Let me say that. We call on the government to dismantle this, not unilaterally, but through dialogue and negotiation, and in a very respectful way. In a very respectful way. By deregulating the transmission and distribution network of the monopoly provider, separating JPS into generating and transmission and distribution assets, thereby allowing all generators of electricity to negotiate on equal footing with the deregulated entity that controls the transmission and distribution assets formerly owned by the JPS. This, Mr. Speaker, will open doors to new investments in energy, new investments in renewable energy in particular, and ultimately to greater efficiency and lower prices to the Jamaican businesses and residents. We support it, but it must be done with respect for the sanctity of contracts. I heard some pronouncements you were making, and I started to get a little bit worried. All right. Mr. Speaker, finally, on energy, we have to do more on conservation. We have to do more on conservation. It's not enough to just say the prices are too high.